Hey everybody, my name is Kelvin and welcome back to episode 6 of my Learn Python series. Today, we're going to be working with strings in Python. Strings are just text, and you'll use them constantly even in simple programs because names, messages, labels, file names, and a lot of real data show up as text. The goal of this video is to get comfortable with basic string operations that you'll be using all the time as a Pythoner. Creating strings, recognizing what kind of value a string is, combining strings, using a small set of core string methods, and doing simple checks on text. As always, the course repository will be linked in the description. If you haven't seen the earlier episodes in this series, be sure to check them out for the best learning experience. Without further ado, let's jump into the exercises. Like usual, we'll be creating a lesson 6 folder to store everything that we're going to cover here today. And we'll create a 6-1.py. In the first exercise, I want to get comfortable with what a string actually is. In Python, a string is a value that represents text, as I said. The simplest way to recognize a string is that it's wrapped in quotes. If it's in quotes, then Python will treat it as text. If it's not in quotes, it might be some number, a boolean, or even something else. This matters because Python treats different types differently. You could do math with numbers. You can combine text with other text. But Python won't automatically guess what you mean if you mix them. So early on, it's useful to confirm what type you're dealing with or using the type function. Say we had a name variable set to Joe. City variable is set to a string with Boston. And say we had a course variable that we initialized to Python 101. Now we can print this name city course. We can print out the 3 variables. We can see that we get the 3 strings. Now let's check what type they are. We can wrap the variables in the type function like so. We can see that Python recognizes all 3 of these variables as the type string. It doesn't matter if you use double quotes or single quotes. They will be the same. So if we used single quotes for Joe, double quotes for Boston, double quotes for Python 101, Python will still recognize it as string because they're functionally the same. What confuses some beginners is that a string that looks like a number is still just text. It's not a number until you convert it later. This matters a lot later when we start taking user input because input usually comes in as a string even if the user typed digits. Say we had an age string that stored 21, but we also had an age integer value that was 21. And then we printed out each one and their corresponding type. And we can print this. Oops. And we can see even though the print statement will give us the same thing for the variable value, we have different types. The age text giving us a string variable, and age number gives us an int. It's the same looking value, but it's a different type. Let's jump into the next exercise. Here, I want to cover length, indexing, and slicing. We're going to keep this short because we already covered this. in the last episode with the lists. Strings are sequences too, so they have a length. You can index them and you can slice them. The goal here is to remind you that these sequence tools work the same way on strings. Say we had a word variable, and we initialized it to Python, a string Python. We can get the length of this string using the length function. We can get the uppercase P using our 0 index. We can get the last n using a -1 index. And we can slice this like a list. Let's run this. And you can see that's exactly what we get. Our word variable here has a length of 6 because there are 6 characters. Word 0 here will give us this P right here. -1 will give us this N right here. And then this slicing will give us PYT, because we're starting at index 0 and we're ending at index 2. In this case, it would be this string right here, PYT. If these methods are unfamiliar to you, be sure to check out episode 5, where we cover this in much more detail. Let's move on to the next exercise. In this exercise, I want to cover combining strings. One of the most common beginner tasks is building a message out of smaller pieces of text. The simplest way to do that is simply with concatenation with the plus operator. The important rule is that plus only works cleanly when both sides are strings. For now, we're keeping it simple and only combining string pieces with string pieces. Say we had a first name variable that had my name in it, and then a last name variable with my last name. We can simply do something like this if we wanted a string with Kelvin space Lynn. We can have a full name variable is equal to our first variable plus a space plus my last. Oops, this should not be Lynn. Got caught up in that. Okay. And then we print the full name. And we can see that we have a new variable now, a full name that is Kelvin space Lynn. We're taking the first name string, adding a space string in the middle, and then adding the last name string. So the result is a brand new string that contains everything combined. What if I didn't have this space here? This is something that I always mess up on, but if you add them, it'll be Kelvin Lynn, since it doesn't automatically add a space. Notice the text inside these double quotes is simply a space. I could do the same thing with a dash, and we get Kelvin dash Lynn, but we'll keep it as space for now. Now, what if I wanted to expand full name even further? That'd be pretty easy as well. We just do full name is equal to a string plus full name right here, and then we can print full name again. Oops. And now we can see that our full name in its end state is Professor space Kelvin space Lynn. That's how to concatenate strings. Pretty simple, right? Let's move on to the next exercise. Here, I want to point out the fact that strings are immutable, so methods return new strings. This is unlike lists, if you paid attention in the last video. This means that you can't change them in place. You can't edit the string directly like you could in a list. Instead, whenever you do something like lowercase a string or strip spaces, Python creates a new string and gives it back to you. This matters because beginners often expect a method call to change the original variable automatically. With strings, most methods return a new string. If you want to keep the new version, you must store it in a variable. Say we had a variable with hello. Now we're interested in seeing the original state. Then we'll lowercase the text. No need to worry about this just now. We'll cover this just in a second. Print. Just know that this lower here is a method call. What should we expect here? The original prints as capital H-E-L-L-O. The lowered version prints as hello, all lowercase, and the original prints as capital H-E-L-L-O again. We changed nothing about the text. We created a new string and then we stored it in a lowered variable. We can run this and we can see exactly what to expect here. Change these two L's to capital to show it. And you can see, and that's exactly what we expect. Now let's jump into some useful string methods that you'll use in your day-to-day work. The first method we'll cover, we just used, is the lower method. Lower returns a new string where every letter is lowercase. This is useful when you want text comparisons to be consistent because all uppercase hello and all lowercase hello should often be treated the same. Say we had a text with hello, hello, world. Notice the different capitalizations. We can print the original. We'll also use the lower method on it. I'll call the lower method right here. Now we should see the lower line right here, print hello world, all lowercase. Run this, and that's what we get. Notice the original prints are unchanged before and after, like before. Now we have an upper method. It pretty much does the opposite thing to the text. Now, all lowercase values in this text will be capitalized. I can run this. Our new text right here will print out hello world, all capitalized. This is useful for normalization or for making output stand out. Now I want to cover strip. Strip returns a new string with white space removed from the beginning and end. White space means tabs, spaces, and new lines. Strip does not remove spaces in the middle of the string. It only cleans the edges. So we can take the string and we can modify a bit, add some space, add some white lines, or I have a couple spaces on each edge. And we can use the strip method to get rid of the white spaces. This will give us hello world like before, including the space inside. It will only get rid of these values right here. Run it. And we can see that's what we get. We can see that the original printed with a lot of spaces, but this one right here has no spaces. Now we can cover a fourth method, replace. Replace returns a new string where occurrences of old are replaced with new. This is useful for swapping words or cleaning up text. In Python, replace replaces all occurrences until you tell it otherwise. Say we modified our string again. to have hello. We'll keep it simple and keep it lowercase for now for the demonstration. What if we wanted to replace both hellos with goodbyes? That'd be pretty easy. We can do the same thing. We can use the replace method. We call it the same way. The first parameter you put in is the word that is going to be replaced, in this case, hello, and then the value you want to replace it with, which in this case is goodbye. As you can see, now the hellos are replaced with goodbyes. Again, note that the original remains unchanged. Now, what if we wanted to do multiple operations on the text? Say we wanted to remove the white spaces from our printed string. That'd be pretty easy. We can just call the strip method in here. This method call right here will remove the white text, and then our replace will take this output and then replace hellos with goodbyes. And we can see that now the white space is gone. And we can keep doing that with all the methods that we just covered. What if we wanted everything to be uppercase? We can just simply call upper. Moving on to the next exercise, I want to cover some simple basic conditional checks. Again, remember that checks return booleans, either being true or false. Our first check will be the in keyword. The pattern substring in string checks whether the substring exists anywhere inside the string. It returns true if it's found and false if it's not. Say we had another text that contained hello world. And we wanted a way to see if hello was in our text. We can do something like this. Hello, the string hello in text, and this is a conditional statement on its own. We should expect to see true here because hello is indeed in our text hello world. Now, what if we wanted to find bye in our text? That wouldn't work because bye is not in our text. This should print false. Another method that we'll cover is starts with, which takes in a prefix. The starts with method checks whether a string begins with a specific prefix. It returns true if it starts with that prefix and otherwise false. Say we had our hello right here, and let's say we wanted to check for the HEL prefix. We can write a conditional statement looking like this. Text dot starts with and we can pass in HEL, and this should give us true because it does start with HEL. Now, what if it doesn't start with a prefix? Say we wanted to check for bye instead. Bye is nowhere in hello world, and it's certainly not a prefix, so again, we should see true and false. You can see that that's what we get. Ends with is basically starts with backwards. We check for a specific suffix. So in this case, what if we wanted to check whether or not our text had a suffix RLD? We can pass the RLD in, and it'll check the string. This should return true. Now it doesn't end with bye, so this should return false. And we can see that it works. Now, I also want to make sure that you guys understand that cases do matter. Say our text had world with the last three letters capitalized. Now, this will give us false, because even though the letters are the same, RLD, one's capital and one's not. And we can see that our new call is false. This would be a pretty easy fix, since all we would need to do is lowercase the whole entire text first and then check. And we can do that using our lower method like before, and this should give us true. As always, we'll do our git workflow. We'll do git status, see what changed. In this case, we have a lesson 6 folder. We can see that this is unstaged, so let's stage our lesson 6. Let's commit it. I'll call it, and we'll have a commit message, lecture 6, which dealing with strings, and we'll push it to the repository. And that does it for the string episode. The goal here was to make strings feel normal and usable. You learned how to create strings and confirm their strings, how string sequence behavior like length and slicing still applies from the list episode, how to combine strings to build output, how core string methods work and what they return, and how to do simple checks that give you true or false. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.